The grand hall was unnervingly silent. Courtiers stood like statues, their fine silks unstirred by the gales of joy or gusts of envy that should have accompanied a royal ceremony. At the center of this profound calm stood Prince Kalen Vex, a figure of polished marble and black velvet. His placid, gray eyes surveyed the assembly, cataloging expressions he understood as concepts but could not feel. This was the blessing of the silent rain, and he was its source. Beside him, Seraphina Valerius shifted in her scorched steel plate, the only sound in the hall a faint scrape of metal. A static crackle seemed to hum just beneath her skin, a tempest held in check. "They praise this silence," she muttered, her voice a low growl. "It feels like a tomb." Kalen registered her statement. A tomb is a place of finality and rest. This is merely stable. He saw no logical flaw in the kingdom's preference for stability over the emotional chaos that plagued their neighbors. Just then, a royal steward hurried forward, his face a mask of what Kalen identified as panic. The man's proximity did nothing to disturb the air. He knelt. "Your Highness," he stammered, "the elderwood, it's gone. The grove is withering. A silent rot spreads from its heart." The air in the elderwood was not just still, it was dead. Gray dust coated everything, and the ancient trees were skeletal, their bark peeling away to reveal wood that crumbled into powder at a touch. No sorrowful mist hung in the air, no wind of despair howled through the branches. There was only nothing. Ilara of the withering groves knelt, her ink-stained fingers tracing the patterns of decay on a fallen leaf. A constant, melancholic drizzle usually followed her, but here, even her grief was muted. "It's not a disease," she whispered, her voice as frail as ash. "There are no spores, no arcane traces." She looked up at Kalen, her dark eyes hollow. "This is a void, a hunger." Kalen tilted his head, his silver hair unmoving. "A hunger for what?" "The soil has nutrients." "Not for nutrients," Ilara corrected, rising slowly. Her indigo robe swirled with dust. "It starves for what you prevent, for the energy of emotion. The joy that brings sun showers, the anger that brings lightning, the grief that brings cleansing rain. Your blessing, Prince Kalen, is suffocating the world." They found the truth etched into the walls of a ruin deep within the blighted territory. Ancient carvings depicted figures crackling with energy, their passions feeding the land, causing flowers to bloom from storms. It was unequivocal. The kingdom's lifeblood was the very chaos Kalen's condition erased. "So I am the curse," Kalen stated, his voice betraying no reaction. It was a fact like any other. Seraphina slammed a gauntleted fist against the stone, and the sky outside instantly darkened. A low thunder rumbled, born of her rage. "No, it's a sickness that can be fought." Her red braid seemed to smolder. "If the land needs a jolt, then I will give it one." Before Kalen could process the flawed logic of her outburst, she strode from the ruin. She raised her sword as lightning coalesced around it. With a roar of righteous fury, she unleashed a catastrophic storm upon the blighted earth. The bolts didn't heal. They only struck the gray, dead ground, leaving blackened, smoking scars upon the rot. She had fed the void with pure destruction. The acrid smell of ozone was washed away by a torrential downpour. Kalen found Ilara standing at the edge of the scorched plain, her frail form the epicenter of a deluge of sorrow. The rain wasn't cleansing. It was thick and gray, pooling in the lightning-blasted craters and turning the blighted dust into a foul, spreading slurry. The rot accelerated before his eyes, consuming the land in a wave of muddy despair. "He is right," Ilara wept, her voice lost in the flood. I looked at what she did at this dying world and my heart broke. This rain, it is my grief, and it only feeds the decay. Kalen stood in the downpour, his black velvet tunic soaked through, yet he felt no chill. He observed the two failed outcomes. Seraphina's uncontrolled fury had only burned the world. Ilara's overwhelming sorrow was now drowning it. He saw the pattern. Their passions, unchecked, were as destructive as his own emptiness. The problem was not the emotion itself, but its lack of direction. The blight, a tide of gray silence, lapped at the capital's outer walls. As panic threatened to erupt into a chaotic, city-destroying storm, Kalen found Seraphina, her knuckles white on her sword hilt. "My rage is a poison," she seethed, thunder gathering overhead. "No," Kalen said, his calm voice cutting through her fury. "It is unfocused. You fight for justice. That is not rage, it is courage. Aim your courage not at the land, but at the despair." He became a perfect, still mirror, reflecting not her wild anger but the core virtue within it. The thunder stopped. The clouds parted. A focused, brilliant beam of sunlight, sharp as a spear, struck the edge of the blight and the gray receded. He then found Ilara, whose sorrowful rains had begun to fall within the walls. "Your grief is drowning them," he stated. "I cannot stop," she sobbed. "You don't mourn the dead," Kalen countered, his logic a steady anchor in her sea of despair. "You love what lives. That is not grief, it is nurturing. Nurture what remains." He reflected her profound sorrow back as its root, a deep, powerful love. The rain softened, turning from a gray flood into a gentle, life-giving mist that settled over the city's gardens, coaxing green shoots from the pale earth. Kalen watched the two controlled weathers push back the silence. He would never feel, but he could understand. He was not a flawed man, but a perfect conductor, a still lens through which his people could finally master their own storms.